In today's post, globalheadwinds.com asks a question that probably no one is asking. Can an empire built on oil lose its power without running out of oil? That is exactly what may be happening in the Gulf today. To know why, we need to go back to the early 20th century. The great powers were no longer looking only at Europe or Asia. Their eyes had turned towards a seemingly barren stretch of desert called the Gulf. Why? Because beneath its sands lay the resource that would shape the next 100 years of global politics. The discovery of oil in Iran in 1908, followed by Bahrain in 1932, triggered an intense scramble among the Western powers to establish influence, if not outright control over the region. The timing could not have been better. Coal-powered steam engines that had ruled the seas were giving way to oil-driven turbines. Automobiles powered by internal combustion engines were rolling off assembly lines while aviation was taking flight. Suddenly, oil was no longer just another commodity. It has become the lifeblood of modern civilization. It is hardly surprising that the control over Gulf oil became a major geopolitical objective. Even the German-British campaign in North Africa during the Second World War was closely tied to securing influence over the Middle Eastern oil supplies. When the war ended, the Gulf struck gold, literally. Oil revenues transformed tiny desert kingdoms into economic powerhouses. Wealth poured in, and so did the global influence. In 1973, Arab members of the OPEC imposed an oil embargo on the United States for supporting Israel during the Yom Kippur War, triggering a worldwide energy crisis. 6 years later, the Iranian Revolution disrupted oil exports, sending shockwaves through the global markets once again. Over the next 4 decades, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman accumulated trillions of petrodollars. Glittering skylines rose from the desert, luxury became a way of life, and the Gulf emerged as one of the world's most influential economic regions. Then came Asia's spectacular economic rise. China, India, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam industrialized at remarkable speed. With economic progress grew consumption. Their growing appetite for energy, especially that of China and India, kept oil prices high and Gulf treasuries overflowing. It seemed like a perfect partnership. Then the cracks began to appear. The first major blow came in February 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Europe reduced its dependence on Russian energy, apparently creating a golden opportunity for Gulf exporters. But events took an unexpected turn. China and India began buying heavily discounted Russian crude instead. As the two of the Gulf's biggest customers shifted their purchases, the region gradually lost its ability to dictate oil prices. The real turning point arrived in February 2026, when the United States and Israel attacked Iran. And Iran struck back. Missiles targeted American military facilities across the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Oman. At the same time, Tehran declared the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which much of the world's oil passes. Almost overnight, the Gulf's greatest strength became its greatest vulnerability. Investor confidence weakened. Expensive infrastructure suddenly looked exposed. The image of the Gulf as a stable global investment destination began to fade. Meanwhile, Asian economies quietly rewrote the rules of the energy game. China and India expanded imports from Russia, the United States, Venezuela, and Argentina. Japan, South Korea, and others followed suit. The global oil supply chain is being redrawn, leaving the Gulf exporters with steadily shrinking leverage. The consequences are already becoming visible. Dubai, long celebrated as the Middle East's commercial gateway and luxury real estate capital, is beginning to show signs of strain. According to The Guardian, international real estate agent Knight Frank reported that Dubai sold more luxury homes in 2025 than either London or New York. Yet by May 2026, property sales had fallen to around $6.1 billion, almost half the level recorded in January. So is this simply a temporary setback caused by war? Global Headwinds believes otherwise. The conflict did not create the crisis. It merely accelerated changes that had been building beneath the surface for years. The reasons are difficult to ignore. The world, especially China and India, is steadily moving towards solar, wind, and nuclear energy. As dependence on the oil declines over the coming decades, so too will the Gulf's strategic advantage. At the same time, new suppliers have broken the monopoly Gulf producers once enjoyed. Despite their extraordinary wealth, Gulf economies focus largely on infrastructure and real estate instead of building globally competitive manufacturing industries like those of China, India, Taiwan, South Korea, or the West. Crude oil remained their principal export. Nor did investments in research, technological innovation, and higher education match those made by the world's leading industrial powers. Much of the oil windfall financed prosperity and luxury, but not enough went into creating diversified knowledge-based economies. To make matters worse, persistent conflicts from Israel-Palestine to the confrontation with Iran continue to discourage long-term investment. These tensions are unlikely to disappear anytime soon. For more than a century, oil placed the Gulf at the center of global geopolitics. Today, the remarkable era appears to be entering its final chapter. The war with Iran may have triggered the crisis, but the forces reshaping the Gulf have been gathering for decades. And what we are witnessing today may well be the end of the century-long Gulf oil age. Not with a dramatic collapse, but through a slow, irreversible geopolitical alignment. The Gulf may cease to be the same again.